You pull into your driveway after a long day. Your neighbor across the street has a brand new BMW parked out front. Their lawn is immaculate. Their kids have the latest gadgets. They just posted vacation photos from Cancun. And you sit there thinking, damn, they must be doing really well. But here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody talks about. Most of what you see in a neighborhood like yours is debt wearing a disguise. The car is leased. The vacation was on a credit card with a 28% APR. The home renovation was financed with a HELOC they cannot afford to pay back. Look, I need to say this clearly. This is not financial advice. I am a guy on the internet tracking corporate mechanics, not your certified financial planner. Do your own math. But if you want to know who is actually building wealth versus who just looks like they are, you need to stop looking at what people own and start looking at the 13 signs that your neighbor is secretly broke. I'm Tom, and this is Tom Thinks. I'm here to cut through the Wall Street jargon and give you the real talk on your money, even if it hurts your feelings a little bit. If you are someone who has ever compared your financial situation to someone else's and felt like you were falling behind, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. The wealth mirage exposed. Here's the thing about modern American neighborhoods. They are essentially theater. We are all putting on a performance for each other, and the ticket price is your financial future. According to data from the Federal Reserve, the average American household carries over $8,000 in credit card debt. But you would never know it walking down the street, would you? You see the leased SUV in the driveway, the patio furniture from a high-end catalog, the kids in private school uniforms, and you assume, well, that family has it together. Here's what most people do not realize. The financial industry has engineered an entire economy around making broke people look wealthy. Car loans stretch to 84 months. Mortgage refinances that extract equity to fund lifestyle spending. Store credit cards with 30% interest rates that make luxury goods feel affordable for exactly one billing cycle. The National Association of Realtors reported that the median home price in early 2026 was around $417,000. Now think about that number for a second. To afford that house with a traditional 20% down payment, you need $83,000 in cash. Most people do not have that. So they put down 3%, they pay private mortgage insurance, they stretch themselves so thin that one job loss, one medical emergency, one transmission repair topples the whole house of cards. And the crazy part? The person living in that house looks just as successful as the person who paid cash for the exact same floor plan. The system rewards appearances. Credit bureaus track your ability to make minimum payments, not your net worth. The bank wants you to look wealthy because wealthy-looking people borrow more money. More borrowed money means more interest payments. More interest payments means more profit for the shareholders. But here's the uncomfortable math. That neighbor with the BMW making $800 a month in lease payments, they are losing roughly $10,000 a year on depreciation and interest alone. Meanwhile, the neighbor driving a 10-year-old Toyota and investing that $800 monthly into a low-cost index fund is on track to have over $1 million in 25 years, assuming a conservative 7% annual return. One looks rich. One becomes rich. And the system is designed to make sure you cannot tell the difference until it is too late. The illusion industry history. Now, to understand how we got here, we have to go back about 70 years. In the post-World War II era, America experienced something unprecedented. Mass prosperity. The GI Bill sent a generation to college. The highway system connected suburbs to cities. And for the first time in history, the average working family could afford a home, a car, and a television. But here's where it gets interesting. The financial services industry realized something critical. They could not maximize profits by selling people things they could afford. The real money was in selling people things they could almost afford. This shift changed everything. In the 1950s, the average American bought a house with 50% down and paid it off in 15 years. By the 1980s, that had shifted to 20% down and 30-year mortgages. By the 2000s, zero down and interest-only loans were standard. The product being sold was no longer a home. It was the appearance of homeownership, and the price was your future earnings. The credit card industry followed the same playbook. In 1970, total U.S. credit card debt was roughly $2 billion. By 2023, that number had exploded to over $1 trillion. That is not a coincidence. That is a business model. The credit card companies figured out that if they could lower the minimum payment to just 2% of the balance, people would keep swiping. The math works like this. You charge $1,000 on a card with 22% APR and pay the minimum each month. It takes you over 20 years to pay it off and costs you more than $2,000 in interest. Banks are not lending you money. They are selling you the illusion of affordability. And here's the part that really gets me. This entire system is built on psychological manipulation. The credit limit increases that show up in your mailbox right before Christmas. The store cards that offer 10% off your first purchase. The car dealerships that ask what monthly payment can you afford instead of what can you afford to pay total. Every single one of these tactics is designed to separate you from your money while making you feel successful. The wealthy understand this game. They know that true wealth is invisible. It is held in assets that produce income. It is protected in tax-advantaged accounts. It is measured by net worth, not monthly cash flow. But the broke neighbor, they are playing exactly the game the system designed for them. Maximize visible consumption, minimize visible sacrifice, and pray that the math never catches up. Hidden extraction mechanics. Now let us talk about the specific mechanics that keep this illusion running, because honestly, this is where it gets dark. The first mechanism is something I call the lifestyle ratchet. It works like this. You get a raise at work. Congratulations. But instead of investing that extra income, you upgrade your apartment. You lease a nicer car. You start eating at more expensive restaurants. Your standard of living increases permanently, but your net worth stays exactly the same. The second mechanism is the debt treadmill. Your neighbor might have a high income, say $150,000 a year. That sounds like a lot, right? But if they are carrying $50,000 in student loans, $30,000 in car loans, $10,000 in credit card debt, and a $400,000 mortgage, their net worth is negative $140,000. They are not wealthy, they are broke with a good cash flow, and here is the worst part. The debt treadmill has an accelerator. Every time interest rates go up, which they did significantly between 2022 and 2026, the cost of carrying that debt increases. A variable rate mortgage on a $400,000 home can jump from 4% to 8%. That is an extra $16,000 a year in interest payments. Where does that money come from? It comes from retirement contributions. It comes from emergency savings. It comes from the kids' college fund. The third mechanism is social pressure, and this is where the 13 signs really start to show up. The broke neighbor will always have new things, but those things never seem to add up. They have the expensive car, but complain about the cost of maintenance. They have the big house, but the furniture inside is mostly empty rooms and rented decorations. They take lavish vacations, but come back stressed about work because they took on debt to fund the trip. Psychologists call this conspicuous consumption. It is a term coined by economist Thorstein Veblen back in 1899, and it is more relevant today than ever. The idea is simple. People buy expensive goods not because they need them, but because they want to signal their status to others. Problem is that in the modern economy, status signaling has become a competitive arms race. Your neighbor buys a BMW, so you feel pressure to buy a Mercedes. Then they buy an Audi, and on it goes. Nobody wins except the banks and the car manufacturers. The fourth mechanism is financial illiteracy. A study from the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority found that 2/3 of Americans cannot pass a basic financial literacy test. They do not understand compound interest. They do not understand how credit scores work. They do not understand the difference between an asset and a liability, and the financial industry loves this. Confused customers are profitable customers, so the broke neighbor keeps making the same mistakes, and the system keeps extracting wealth from them year after year. The wealth signal strategy. So how do you spot the difference between genuine wealth and manufactured appearances? And more importantly, how do you position yourself on the right side of this divide? Let me introduce you to something I call the net worth signal framework. This is a system that the truly wealthy use to evaluate financial health, and it has almost nothing to do with what you see on the surface. The first signal is what I call the friction coefficient. When something breaks in the wealthy person's life, like a water heater or a transmission, they fix it immediately without stress. The broke neighbor, on the other hand, will experience a genuine crisis. They will have to put the repair on a credit card or borrow from family. Watch how people handle unexpected expenses. That is the raw data on their financial health. The second signal is time horizon. Wealthy people think in decades. They make decisions based on where they want to be in 20 years. Broke people think in months. They make decisions based on what they want to look like at the next family gathering. You can hear this in how people talk. The wealthy person says, I am investing in this rental property for long-term cash flow. The broke person says, I am renovating my kitchen so it looks good for the holidays. The third signal is leverage awareness. Wealthy people use debt strategically to acquire assets that produce income. A mortgage on a rental property where the tenant pays the note is strategic debt. A credit card balance on restaurant meals is consumption debt. The broke neighbor treats all debt the same. If the bank approves them, they take the money. They do not ask whether the debt is building an asset or funding a memory. Now, here is where the framework gets powerful. The wealthy person tracks their net worth obsessively. They know exactly how much they own versus how much they owe. They watch that number grow over time, even if it means driving an old car and wearing last year's clothes. The broke person tracks their social appearance obsessively. They know exactly what their neighbor will think when they see the new car in the driveway. But they have no idea what their own balance sheet looks like. A study by Charles Schwab found that nearly half of high net worth individuals define wealth as not having to worry about money, not having a big house, not having a luxury car, not having status, just not worrying. The broke neighbor worries constantly. They worry about the payment. They worry about the maintenance. They worry about keeping up with the Joneses, who are themselves worried about keeping up with the Smiths. It is a chain of anxiety held together by minimum payments. Reading the hidden signals. Now let me walk you through how to read the actual financial signals that your neighbor is projecting, whether they realize it or not. Because once you learn to see these, you will never look at a suburban street the same way again. Signal number 1. Do they talk about payments or prices? The broke neighbor says, I got a great deal on this car. It is only $550 a month. The wealthy person says, I paid $32,000 cash for this car, and I plan to drive it for 10 years. One is thinking about monthly cash flow, the other about total cost of ownership. Signal number 2. Do they have visible subscriptions? A broke neighbor often has a lot of recurring expenses that signal status. The country club membership, the premium streaming packages, the meal delivery service, the expensive gym membership they never use. These are all small leaks that drain thousands of dollars a year while providing zero return. Signal number 3. Look at their relationship with mail. The broke neighbor avoids their mailbox because they do not want to see the bills. The wealthy person checks their accounts daily and knows exactly where every dollar is going. This is behavioral, and it is almost impossible to fake. Signal number 4. How do they talk about money? The broke neighbor either avoids the topic entirely or brags about specific purchases. The wealthy person discusses financial concepts. They talk about tax efficiency, they talk about asset allocation, they talk about yield. They are not trying to impress you with what they bought. They are trying to learn from how you think. Signal number 5. Look at their tools. The broke neighbor has a lot of expensive toys like boats, ATVs, and motorcycles that sit unused for months. These are depreciating assets that require insurance, storage, and maintenance. The wealthy person has tools that produce income or save money, like a reliable vehicle for work, a home office setup, or equipment for a side business. Signal number 6. Pay attention to their emergency preparedness. When a storm knocks out power, the broke neighbor panics because they are living paycheck to paycheck. The wealthy person has a generator, a stocked pantry, and 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. They are prepared for disruption because they have built resilience into their financial life. Signal number 7. Watch how they treat their possessions. The broke neighbor upgrades constantly because they are chasing novelty and status. The wealthy person maintains what they have because they understand the value of durability. A 10-year-old car that is clean and well-maintained is a sign of financial discipline. A 2-year-old car that is dirty and neglected is a sign of financial chaos masked by a lease payment. Your financial wake-up call. Now I want you to do something uncomfortable. I want you to think about your own street. Think about your own neighbors, and then think about yourself. Because here is the truth that nobody wants to admit. We have all been the broke neighbor at some point. We have all made a purchase to impress someone who was not paying attention. We have all signed a loan agreement without reading the fine print. We have all prioritized appearances over substance. And that is okay. but only if you learn from it. The National Association of Realtors data from early 2026 shows that home sales are ticking up slightly, but buyer sentiment remains cautious. People are nervous. They should be. The era of cheap money is over. The era of easy credit is tightening, and the gap between those who look wealthy and those who actually are wealthy is about to become very visible. Here is what I want you to do. I want you to go look at your balance sheet with fresh eyes, not your neighbor's, yours. Calculate your net worth, assets minus liabilities. If it is negative, you have work to do. If it is positive, figure out how to make it grow, and stop comparing your Chapter 2 to someone else's Chapter 20, because the neighbor with the BMW and the big house and the vacation photos, they might be living in a financial house of cards that is about to collapse. And the neighbor driving the 10-year-old sedan who mows their own lawn and brings lunch from home, they might be quietly building a fortune that will fund their freedom while everyone else is still working to pay off the debt they accumulated trying to look rich. I want to hear from you in the comments. What is the most obvious sign you have seen that someone was living beyond their means? Have you ever caught yourself in the comparison trap? Drop your story below, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Not to embarrass them, but to wake them up. Because the most expensive thing you can buy is an image, and the most profitable investment you can make is your own financial education. Go look at your balance sheet with fresh eyes. Your future self will thank you.
Found this interesting? Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like, share it out, and drop your questions or ideas in the comments. Until our next adventure.